Hey, it's James Willoughby, and we're here for another weekly update. And this week, we're going to do a little bit of an update on the whole entire month of January and talk about the first week of February. So, this week ending the 5th, which was yesterday, um, what we've seen is only 464 new listings last week versus 680 homes went pending. So that's a good ratio because that means our inventory, overall inventory, is going down. Now that didn't necessarily improve our weeks of inventory, and I'll show you why here in a minute. But both of those statistics, I think, are off, obviously because of the weather. I think there's a lot of folks, even today, without power in the city of Austin. Thank you very much, city. But you can see that the total active listings here, it's dropped off yet again. So that's exciting, right? So we're excited about that. This is one of the graphs that I like the best because it gives me kind of a correlation between the new listings versus the pendings. And as I mentioned, there was a gap. Okay, there was a gap the week before, and there was a gap last week. The reason why the number of pendings went down and maybe even a more so number of listings was the weather. And I think that we'll see this turn right back around, and we'll see even more listings next week, but even more buyers next week as well because of some pent-up demand. We definitely had appointment cancellations with both buyers and sellers last week, as you would expect. As far as other things, like usually at the end of a month, you want to review the number of listings that failed. A lot of listings end at the end of a month. You can see that these peaks here were all at the end of the month. This was December, and this was November, October, and going on back to September. Well, this was our little spike here that we had at the end of January. Well, it's not nearly as high as any of these. So really a lot of the dead inventory all expired in the last quarter or more of last year. And this year we're back to more of a normal market. So I really didn't expect to see a bunch of expired listings, but we did have some expired, meaning they didn't sell, and the seller pulled them off the market, and at this point has not rehired a realtor to resell it. So really only a small percentage of them come back on the market. Weeks of inventory, we said we'd talk about that. So we saw those spikes in the holiday, and then we've seen the amount of inventory go way down, or at least the weeks of inventory going way down because our overall inventory is going down and our demand's going up. Last week, weeks of inventory bumped back above 10%. This is absolutely just a blip from the weather. I totally anticipate to see it back down to 8 weeks of inventory, maybe less. Depends. This is an interesting time of the year where we get to see how many homes go on the market with the new sellers and how they're absorbed and so forth. So we're going to pay a lot of attention to that in the weeks to come. And there goes my phone. I'll turn that off. And then median sales price. This is the first time I'm reporting median sales price for January. And you can see it's just above the 450 mark. If you look at the markers here, December it was right here. So it slipped a little bit. So my thought would be, if I'm just looking at this information casually, uninformed person would say, well, gosh, the market's still going down. And I'm going to beg to differ because the current median sales price for January 2023 is indicative of what actually happened at the very end of November and all of December in terms of what went pending. So if somebody bought a property or, pended a property somewhere before or after Thanksgiving, it probably closed in January. Maybe it closed in December. But anything that went pending in December went and closed in January. So these statistics actually are indicative of what sales activity happened in December. And as you know, we had a lot more inventory in December. We had a lot of sellers wanting to sell just to be done with it. So I think a few people threw in the towel. A few builders needed to make their books look good and cut their prices and so forth. So our median sales price actually went down for January indicative of what pendings happen in December. So my prediction is that we're going to see median sales price climb back up. Now, will it go back up to these historic levels? 550 is the median sales price of the entire MSA. Is that going to happen? No. What I do think is that if you look at our trajectory, we're going to come back up and get closer to the trajectory that we've had for the last 2 years. Maybe this trajectory is a little bit high because, we shot out like a cannon 2 years ago. And then once again, at the beginning of last year, same thing, right? So I think the trajectory might be a little flatter than this graph. In fact, if we were to do it over 3 or 4 or 5 years, it might look a little different. Maybe next video I'll show you that. But certainly, median sales price is going up, which means that the less inventory we have, and as buyer demand improves for the spring, I think our prices are going to firm up from where they're at right now. So that's the good news. So anyway, just wanted to make sure you know that if you're a seller, as always, price strategy is everything, and price strategy is based on your price versus the comparable sales. In other words, what's your competition and how are you priced against it? And then condition versus the comparable homes. What's your condition versus the condition of the comparable sales? So, so for you sellers out there that are thinking about selling, this is where the fine art of price strategy comes into play, and our price strategy program to get you the highest price possible kicks into gear. So if you have any questions, please give us a holler. If you're a buyer and you want to subscribe to the buyer video, let me know. Just pop us a quick email and we're happy to help out, and we're excited to talk to you again. Thanks.